Hello and welcome to another episode of Unique Professions. My name is David Honey and we are going to explore something that's been around for a long time. You see it on the TV. If you know the words, if you know who Margaret Robbie is, Mattel, the toy, and Aqua, the 90s age pop group, they all have something in common. I wonder what that could be. We are talking about pop culture, and it's my delight to introduce Demelza. How are you, Demelza?
I'm very well, thank you, David. Thanks for having me.
No worries. Now, you are a self-confessed pop culture expert. You're a TV presenter. You present pop culture on the couch and also on the radio as well.
Yes. So there's a few things there that I do.
So my first question is, for some people who may not know, can you explain to me what is pop culture and why do you love it so much?
Well, pop culture is basically popular culture. It's what we're following. It's what we're doing. What we're encompassing in our everyday lives. And it expands into so many different realms, whether that is TV, music, movies, entertainment overall, gaming. There's just fashion. It's just so much that actually brings in and comes together as pop culture. But as long as it's popular, that's why we look at it. I mean, culture is part of it, right? So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And why do you love it so much?
For me, when I first was looking in, so originally to give you a bit of a background, when I was studying at uni many moons ago, I was interested in a career in media and journalism. And when I was doing everything with learning and I studied Whopper Broadcasting for a year as well, and just looking at the news that was coming up at the time, and for me, I felt it was very depressing. And I just didn't know if I had it in me to go and hound someone who potentially, and not hound, so there's no disrespect to journalists because I've got plenty of friends who are
Yep.
journos, but, chasing down someone for the scoop or the story and things like that. And I mean, that comes with that job, and I just didn't know learning kind of what was needed to do that if that was me. At the same time, I just always had this knack from the time I was a kid to remember songs, remember television shows that I had watched. I remembered, what was the fashion at the time. And I grew up as a teenager in the 90s. So for me to be able to take all of those elements and actually kind of go, hey, you know what? I actually wouldn't mind sharing this information as opposed to just the news and the more hard-hitting stuff. And kind of pursued that area where I wanted to be a Channel V VJ. Sadly, that did not happen for me, but I started at a community radio station that was around at the time called Groove 1017. So I was on there for a very, I think right up until it closed. And then through that, I met a whole heap of different people and became the club music editor for Express Magazine for 3 years. So I actually then became a music journalist, and I was interviewing, David Guetta before David Guetta was as massive as he is today. I've interviewed Pitbull, I've interviewed LL Cool J, these massive names. And that kind of funneled me into music. And then I took a break and went back into the corporate world and started my job, which I have now. I run my own marketing and social media consultancy. And so kind of was doing some work in the marketing world, and then decided around 2015 that I really wanted to kind of get back into the music side of things and the presenting side of things, and spoke to a friend of mine because I also used to host a breakfast show, a live-to-air breakfast show on Channel 31 around 2005, 2006. And he was still on this show called The Couch, and I messaged him and I was like, do you have any of the do you have any show reels from when we were doing the show back in the 2000s? And he was like, I don't, but why are you looking for it? And I said, well, I've actually been feeling like I want to get back into the pop culture, the music, the entertainment side of things and that presenting side of things. I said, I've just got this fire in me that I feel like I need to head back into that direction. And he was like, well, funny you should say that because The Couch is looking for a new music presenter. Do you want to come in, meet Fred, and see what comes of that? And that was 9 years ago. And so in a brand new studio, I believe, this year, I'll be 9 years now the music presenter for The Couch. So that's kind of how I've channeled in, and then just from the experiences that I've had and obviously social media, it kind of puts yourself out there a little bit more and people start to realize what you do, that I was then able to get opportunities like being the entertainment presenter on ABC Drive Radio this past year with Joe Trilling on their Thursday show. So there were some really cool opportunities that have come up and presented itself that have allowed me to get involved with something that I do kind of enjoy, and it's kind of fun as well. It's, you know, I get to listen to music, and I get to watch TV shows and go to movies and things like that as all part of what I do.
That sounds absolutely fantastic.
You're right.
I know. Can I have your job, please?
Yeah.
Pretty please. So you were saying that you had a bit of fire in the belly and you were like, this is what I want to do. Was there a pivotal moment that you went, oh, hang on, this is something I want to do? Was there did you wake up one morning, or was it just that you had a chance, like you were saying, and you just kind of ran with it?
I think for me at the time, so this was around 2015, and I was just feeling really lost. I worked my way up through my job at the time, and I just felt like something was missing, and I wanted to. I always felt like I didn't give the media side of things as good of a go. I feel like life and all the responsibilities that come with it kind of got in the way because, you know, media can, there are certain elements to it where it doesn't pay well, or you've really got to do the hard yards. And for me at the time as well, one of the reasons why I never completed the Whopper course was because my dad had passed away the year before. So I kind of felt like there was just so many factors. I was a self-saboteur as well. So anytime I was getting close to being remotely, you know, successful, or I felt I was getting successful, I would just pull it right back, and this fear would just grasp me in a way that I often wondered the opportunities that I could have had had I kept going with it. But that's a whole different story. But with what I wanted to do, I read this book by Lisa Messenger called Daring and Disruptive. Now, Lisa Messenger is the lady behind the Collective Hub, and she had a very successful The Collective magazine, which around that time where Instagram was booming and it was all about the girl boss and, you know, the entrepreneur. I had read this book on a flight to Fiji for a friend's wedding. And there was just so many parts in this book that I just felt was speaking to me. You know, the fears that I had, the things that I was worried about, the fear of failure and just how overwhelming that could have been. And it was then where it was like, you know what do I love? What do I absolutely love? What are the things that I just thrive on? And my love for music, my love for like media and the culture and the pop culture, I always found it just made me happy. And I thought maybe it's time to fuse this back into what I want to be doing and seeing, even if I just do it part-time, like I'm not looking for a job with it, but if I can do it part-time, then maybe that's just something that will keep going. And at the same time, I also made the decision to set up DL Social. So I had two things at the same time, but that's where I kind of realized this is my happy place. And this, for me, I'm really, really fortunate that I get to do something and, you know, people see it and they're like, oh my gosh, you know, you do stuff on a Sunday. Like, do you ever break? And I was like, yeah, but
You're passionate.
I'm passionate about it, but for me, this is my downtime. Like this is what I love. Like I'm able to utilize my downtime in a way that makes me happy and allows me to share knowledge that you might not know.
I wonder why, I'm just going to move just slightly.
Yeah.
Wonder why people, in your opinion, why are we so celebrity obsessed? Why? I mean, for some people, that is a genuine question. Some people just don't care. Yeah. But, but why do you think some people are so in tuned into that space?
I think with celebrities, we've been just society and the way that, you know, traditional media as well has for more of a better word, put them up on this glamorous pedestal, right? And we look at people that are doing, you know, they're millionaires and they have these flashy cars and they have these amazing careers and they entertain us in so many different ways, shapes or forms. And I think that's why we become obsessed. But then I also think when you look at the 2000s, when that tabloid style of magazine was out, and now you've got TMZ and Perez Hilton blogs that are out there as well. It's almost now taken us to an area where we've infiltrated their lives and we're fly on the wall in what they're doing in their lives. And I think also when you look at that voyeuristic element of us as human beings, it comes back to that nature. So you pair that with all the glamour and the glitz and the, oh, this is amazing, not necessarily knowing what's going on in the darker side of things, but we see that. And then when we hear all these other things that are popping up on TMZ or on Perez Hilton or on the news, we're kind of drawn to it straight away. I mean, you just have to have a look at something like news.com where it has like what are the top 5 posts that people are reading for today. And I mean, how many times have I seen, you know, Kylie Jenner's out in some bikini, or some models out in a bikini, or this actress looks like this, or this actor looks like that, you know. So it just shows you we're still drawn to those types of stories because we want to know what, you know, in some cases, what our favourite person is doing. And then on the flip side, there are people who just could not care less.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I guess you said you're a child of the 90s, so am I. How have you seen pop culture evolve from, you know, and how we view pop culture? I would definitely say social media's got a massive influence. But how have you seen it evolve since from you started to where we are now?
I definitely think, you know, in the 90s, it was very, I guess, protected in a way, because what was being put out there in terms of the stories and the news about these particular artists, it was very rare that there would be some sort of scandal or there would be something massive that would come about. You know, you wouldn't see photos of them going to the shops looking disheveled and, you know, just not looking their best, or, you know, something like that. It never came out in that way, shape or form. It also was never in real time the way that it is now. You know, the stuff that we were getting, even when you look at the music that was being released, the time frame of TV shows, Friends in the US aired in, 94 or like towards the start of 94, whereas by the time we got it here in Australia, it was 95. Like it came to us in 95. Same with some of the songs. The songs would be released one year, but then for Australia, we'd get it, you know, 6 months later. And you didn't have that instant factor that we have now. And then you moved into the 2000s and technology started to come to play. The internet had a lot of things where you could access information on the internet. People were putting information onto the internet as well. You had things like videotapes, very controversial videotapes for some of those, you know, very personal videotapes for some of those celebrities as well. And that was being put on the internet, and it was getting more eyes, more things were being seen, and then it just kind of snowballed into what it is, excuse me, into what it is today, which is where we have these straight, you know, as soon as something happens, it's on TikTok, it's on social media, it's
Instagram,
on
everything.
TMZ, it's on, you know, not so many times now, it's more often than not that it's TikTok that's potentially breaking a story than TMZ. So it's really evolved, but technology and how it's been able to be worked, manufactured by the management of those particular people at the same time, it's all very evolved as well. I mean, look at the Kardashians. Look how they've used the paparazzi to their advantage, right?
Yeah, and you actually said something quite interesting about the time. I can remember one of my favourite shows. I think it came out in 99. I think it came out here 2000, The Sopranos.
Yeah.
And I remember that it would used to come on quite late at night on Channel 9. They used to move it from 9:30 to 11:30, sometimes even midnight. It was a pain in the backside to follow their TV guide. I can remember tape. Do you remember VHSs?
Oh, of course.
Yeah, I remember. I used to record the episode, whatever night it was on. It was usually it was a Tuesday or Wednesday.
Yeah.
And it was like 10:30 at night to about 11:50 because of commercial TV.
Yeah.
They love their ads. And yeah, I can remember, even though it was being released, we would still see that about a year later.
Yeah.
And sometimes, I think even the season finale of that was about a 2-year gap. So yeah, I certainly remember the times, and that's not the only example. I think another one of my favourites, probably The Wire as well, both HBO shows. And so yeah, the timing of that. Now, if you did that now, let's just say, a really hit show of the last few years, although it has finished now, Game of Thrones.
Yes.
If that was to be aired on commercial TV or TV in general, and if you had that, a year behind, you wouldn't be able to get away with that now.
No.
And people would, because of a spoiler culture as well, you wouldn't be able to, you lose interest.
We'll also look at the soap operas.
Yeah.
You know, when they used to be on Channel 9 and Channel 10, you had your Days of Our Lives, your Young and Restless, your Bold and the Beautiful. And we were 6 months to a year. In some cases, there was a couple of years we were behind the the states, and they had to express everything every so often because we were just constantly falling behind. I think if anyone is listening that is, had an idea in that, I think the cricket had a lot to do with it when they used to they used to stop it for the cricket over the summer. But, watching that, and even now, how often do you put it on and you're like, oh my God, this character's still here, or this person's still here. Like, are you kidding me? And now it's what aired in the US, because when I had my son, obviously I was at home as a mum. I was like, oh, let's log back into what's happening in the world of Salem on Days of Our Lives and Young and Restless Genoa City or something, And I looked at all of that, and I would then go, oh, I want to know what's happening next. And then I'll Google it and find out. And then you see that we're actually only a few days behind now on what is airing in the US. And I think a lot of it is because it's so easy to Google.
Exactly, yeah.
Spoiler alert there. That, why would you watch it if you find out what's going to happen, right?
Yeah, what's the point? Oh, that character died. Oh, great. Oh, wow. He was my favourite character. I'm not going to watch.
To be honest, in soapies, it's that character died. He'll be back in.
Yeah, he'll be back. He'll be back next year. He'll be called Damien instead. He'll be the long lost brother or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, look, you resurfaced. Yes. It's a great TV trope, that one.
Yes.
So, Demelza, I have a quiz.
Yes, I'm a little bit worried about this quiz. to be
Oh,
honest.
I expect 10 out of 10 here.
Oh, goodness.
And then I've got some more questions for you.
Oh,
Okay, are you ready?
I am as ready as I can be.
This is the Unique Professions Pop Culture Quiz with Demelza. I want 10 out of 10, all right? Okay, last year in 2020, what creature upstaged celebrities like Jared Leto, Doja Cat and Rihanna at the 2023 Met Gala?
It was a cat. It was like a white cat that they were all dressed as, wasn't it?
I think something smaller.
Character. What?
What celebrity? What creature? Yes. I'll give you. Would you like A,
feel
B,
like the
C,
cat-
D?
A, B, C, D. Yeah, give me some
All right.
choices. 'cause I am...
A, cat.
Yeah.
B, cockroach. C,
Yeah,
fish. D, jaguar.
it was the cockroach.
It was.
There was a cockroach on the red carpet.
Yes, there was. All right. Now, second question. What was the first home game console called?
I am going to go with it was
Not Nintendo.
no, it was a Commodore, wasn't it? Or was it the Atari?
Neither of those.
Oh,
Would you like a clue?
a clue would be great. See, I'm doing horribly.
I picked these questions out. So far, so good. Okay. Think of the movie. The answer is in these 4 words I'm going to say.
Yeah.
The movie is called 2001 A Space Odyssey. One of those words. Obviously it's not A.
Odyssey.
Yes.
Yes.
The Odyssey. All right. Which US rapper has won a Pulitzer Prize and for what album? I will say he's one of my favourites. There is absolutely no doubt.
Who got the Pulitzer?
And for what album? For a bonus point.
I know this.
Yeah.
It's
I'm not giving you a clue, otherwise
no,
I'll give it away.
No, it's
That didn't help.
it's not Kanye.
No, it's not Kanye West. No.
It's not Kanye.
No.
Kanye didn't get it.
No.
Kendrick?
Yes,
It's
Kendrick
Kendrick,
Lamar.
isn't it? Yes.
And what album?
Oh,
I'll give you a clue. It had Humble on
it's
it.
got Humble on it. Oh,
Yep. And DNA.
oh, it's the album.
It's not.
The album has...
It's got a one
horrible.
word.
I'm
It's
doing
got a one
horribly.
word title. It has a one word title.
What was it?
And you're probably thinking, I wish I knew that.
Yes. Yes.
Damn.
Damn. Yes. It was damn.
All right.
Do you know what it was? I was getting it mixed. I'm doing myself a real disservice because hip hop and R&B is like my forte too. Like I was like, for some reason I had Channel Orange in my head. I was like,
Frank
no, that's
Ocean.
Frank
Ocean, yeah.
Why? Do you know what? I haven't had breakfast this morning, so that's going to
Okay,
be my
all right.
excuse.
The
I'm
excuses
going
are
with.
rolling out here. all right. Let's see if we'll plow one through. I'm pretty confident you're going to get this one.
I hope so. I'm doing horribly so far.
Name the 4 kids of Kanye and Kim.
Ah, Northwest,
Yep.
Saint,
Yes.
Chicago, Psalm.
Yay! There we go.
Hey, I got one.
All right. Which pop star is the godmother of Elton John's sons?
Lady Gaga, isn't it?
Yes. Well, now we're back on track. What would I be referring to if I said the word hypercolour?
T-shirts that you put your hand on and then they changed into a different colour based on the temperature of your hand.
Yes, they were big in the 90s. I had one of them.
They were huge. There was actually a couple of shirts I saw in Cotton On last year, but there wasn't a really big push behind them. As soon as I saw them, actually I bought one. There was one like the kiddie version.
Yeah.
And I bought some for my son and he just loved it. He was just standing there like smacking himself constantly because he was like, oh, look, it changes colour. But then the one thing with hypercolours is you get sweaty and just the whole shirt would change.
Yeah, I used to breathe on my and yeah. But then the whole day you're like, oh, it's already changed colour. All right. What has someone who has got an EGOT done? EGOT.
They have received an Emmy, a Grammy, an Oscar, and a Tony Award.
Well done, nicely done. Which band famously in 1990 had their Grammy revoked and why?
Milli Vanilli, because they were lip syncing. It was not them singing.
I know, and they were still crap.
Yeah, yeah.
Currently, what YouTube video has the most views of all time?
Oh, I want to say it is...
It's not Taylor Swift.
No, it's not Taylor. I feel like it is either... I feel like it might be a Bad Bunny song.
No, not Bad Bunny, no.
No. I don't think it's Blackpink. Is it Psy?
No, it's not Gangnam Style.
Oh,
You're not even close. You're not even close.
This one has well and truly thrown me because I feel like the YouTube, most watched YouTube videos is constantly
it's been sitting
changing.
there for a while. It's been sitting there for a while. In fact, before I even did this quiz, it was number one about 6 months ago. It's still going. Still going.
All right, I'm going to have to pass on this one because I don't think I can guess it.
Your child probably knows this one.
Yeah.
Baby Shark.
Oh, God, yes. Please. Actually, if you have a look, there's a video on YouTube from Coachella.
Yep.
I think it might have been 2019, and there was a DJ called DJ Shark, and he mixed Baby Shark in with Darude Sandstorm, and it is one of the coolest things
cool.
I have actually seen. Like the way it comes in, and it starts on that do 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 of Sandstorm, and people twigged.
Yeah.
And you just see the crowd, and this is like a good 20,000 people crowd under this massive hangar, could be more, and just the way that crowd just lost it. It's actually a really cool thing to have a look at.
Definitely have to have a look. All right, I've got one more question.
Okay.
What childhood hobby led the creator of Pokemon to create Pokemon?
I want to say anime.
No, I'll give you an A, B, C, D.
Yes.
All right.
I'm doing atrociously with this.
Was it
I love
A,
Pokemon too.
anime?
Yeah.
Clearly not.
No.
Was it B, insect collecting? Was it C, drawing art? Or D, was it posting TikTok videos?
I'm going to say it was definitely insect collecting.
Yes.
You've got to catch them all, right?
Yes, that's it, yes. And that was part of the thing. It's like, that was part of the, you catch them all because you like to collect insects. So there you go.
Well, look at that. I did atrociously. Please don't judge me on my point.
It was okay. It was okay. I mean, I did specifically pull out some hard questions. All right, yes. Now, nostalgia.
Yes.
Do you think that is a big part of pop culture? What we used to love, back in the day is starting to come back now.
I think, my great-grandma used to tell me everything has a 20-year cycle and everything comes back with 20 years. And we are now 20 years since the start of the 2000s, and what's all coming back, all the stuff that we remember because we were either teenagers or young adults or kids for some of the audience as well. And I think with nostalgia, it reminds us of happier times. There's so many things that have happened around the world that have changed us as people, but the things that we grew up watching, the things that we grew up listening, for a lot of people, those are things that are related to those happier moments. And I think that's why nostalgia is, everything from the toys we used to play with. It's like, oh, remember this? Like, oh, I can't believe I forgot that. I used to do this. And we get to share these experiences and stories with people about what we did. The other thing with nostalgia, again, and it goes back to technology, it goes back to social media, it's all over TikTok. It's all over. How many times do we share things of, a joke or a meme and it's related back? I shared one the other day about if you could go to any live concert you could go to and teleport back to a concert from back in the day, where would you go? And the photo that was underneath it was the Ninja Turtles doing the ninja rap, from the Ninja Turtle second movie. And I put that up, and the amount of people that actually responded to that story, because it's almost like we all grew up on our own, in our own little families or, in our own little lives. But it's these shared experiences that we didn't necessarily know other people were having the exact same thing, and it comes, I think that's one of the beauties of nostalgia. It's bringing us all back together to share our happier times in a world that, isn't necessarily the best.
Because I've noticed a lot of bands now and a lot of singers are doing, 20-year album tours or, like, for example, TLC
Yep.
Coming out soon, Blackstreet as well.
Yes.
A little while ago we had 50 Cent.
We did have 50, yeah.
Now, a cynical point of view could be they're just running out of money.
Yeah.
And they just need to, top up their superannuation. Hello, Tom Jones.
Yeah.
Again, some people do want to relive those memories.
I think it's a number of things. I think we, psychologically, and I had a psychologist tell me this as well, when you hit a certain age, it's around like your mid-30s, you can't necessarily deal with the new music that comes out. Mm-hmm. So it's very rare that you're able to handle the music or like the music. And in more often than not, you're listening to whatever your kids are now starting to listening to. And in the background, it's like all muffled and it's just there. But I think as well, you look at the younger audiences and that music that we had, it's semi-timeless, whereas a lot of the music that does come out seems to be a lot more disposable. And I don't know if that's just the way of the music industry these days, where artists, to make the same amount of money that they were making back in the 90s or 2000s, have to pump out so many more songs, but you're kind of going quantity over quality, aren't you?
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, you look in the 90s and an album from Mariah Carey, she would have like 2 years between albums, but it would be in the top 50 for 104 weeks, the top 10. Yeah, and it was every single track was solid. And I think the concerts, I think it's also a little bit, dare I say it, ageist as well, where it's like, oh, well, if I go to a concert of TLC and Blackstreet, the younger audience that potentially are going to be there are either going to be there with older people or they're there to appreciate the music. It's not like going to a festival where you could get hit on the head with a bottle by an 18-year-old who's trying to be smart, Yep. It's kind of also that element, which I think is good. But then it's also looking at the music itself, even the newer stuff, it's all covering the older stuff.
Yep.
You look at what's out there and just how many samples or interpolations or actual covers of songs now are actually being made, especially with the EDM side of things. Yep. It's because people loved that so much, or they want to pay homage to the people who made those songs, and they wanted to give it their take on it as well. There's just so many different elements as to why is everything old new again. In the 90s it was all about the 70s and ABBA. You look, the movies that came out in the 90s, Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, Muriel's Wedding. It was all 70s music, and now it's 90s and 2000s music,
Because you actually brought up a couple of good points there. Yes, I for me, my music taste is there's not a lot of new artists that I really, really like. A lot of what I'm still listening to, I listened in high school, my uni days, and I'm still kind of listening to their, there's been very rarely in the last couple of years that I've found a new artist that's happening now that I've gone, oh yeah, that's really good, or I've liked more than maybe one or two of their songs. A lot of the artists that I like, I discovered in high school, and they're still putting out music today, and I still follow what they're doing. Or they're, like, for example, I'm a huge fan of the Australian musician Nick Cave.
Yes. Yeah.
And like I discovered him in I think year 8. I listened to that. The album was Murder Ballads.
That was the one with Kylie Minogue.
The song that was one of the songs that was on.
Yeah.
My first take was on that same album. There was a song called Stagger Lee. Any Nick Cave fan would know exactly why that song is very popular. It tells a story, and again, that's it's based on a 19th century poem. Nick just kind of made the lyrics and kind of modernised it a bit. And I think, again, what you were saying there is the old is new again. Like, I can think of an example now. Luke Combs, Fast Car.
Yes.
That was done really well. That was originally by Tracy
Chapman, yeah.
If I believe, yep. And, that was a huge song when that was released. But now it's killing it in the charts
and
again.
It's really interesting as well because I was saying this to my husband the other day. I was like, there are so many songs. So when Fast Car came out originally, I could not stand it. I was like, oh, not this again. Like, change the channel or, put my tape on or put the Backstreet Boys album on or something like that. Even with, it wasn't Whitney Houston. There was another song. There was another diva singer and they had some song and I hated it. And now it's one of my favourite songs. No, it wasn't Celine. I actually quite liked Celine, but I can't remember who I was talking about. There was someone that I just didn't like at the time, but now their songs, I was like, oh, I actually really appreciate Jewel.
Jewel,
It was Jewel.
Yep.
I was like, oh, she's like so folksy, and I get it. Like it's beautiful songwriting, but it's just not for me. And now I will listen to My Hands and Foolish Games. Like I love the stuff that she put out, and it's just really interesting how maybe I've matured and actually now appreciate the song for what it was and the art that was then put out, as opposed to, oh, it's not the Backstreet Boys, I don't want to listen to it. Like teen girl, just very selfish and indulgent, right? So we were all going to marry our favourite pop stars and things like that. So like that was where the tunnel vision kind of was.
And I can also think of just another example that's going on. The TV show Stranger Things, which came out last year. There was 2 songs that were previously released. First of all, probably one that everyone will recognise will be Kate Bush's Running Up That Hill. That actually, when Stranger Things was released, that actually went to number 1 in Australia.
It did. I actually thought the amount of weeks that it stayed at number 1, I thought it was going to be Song of the Year, but it turned out it didn't sell as many, even though it was number 1 for a fair few weeks. It didn't actually sell as many records as some of the others. I think it came in at like number 7 or something. It really surprised me where it was on the grand scheme of things, but it just shows you how little music is being sold as well.
And the other one that was from the same show, same season, pretty sure it's the same season, but a band that I used to absolutely love in the early 90s, late 80s, Metallica.
I was going to say,
Yeah, and I think the song was Master of Puppets.
Yes.
If I remember correctly.
It was,
from the Master of Puppets album. And then, I actually saw some comments like, who's this Metallica? I'm like, oh, wow, okay. But, there's that argument there. It kind of brought them in the audience as well.
And I actually think, and I did a segment on this on the couch where Metallica came out and was telling their fans, don't ridicule these young people who are jumping on our bandwagon because they've seen us from Stranger Things. Like, appreciate and acknowledge that they liked what they heard. And I think that's one thing that I'm really impressed with, because we've been through these ebbs and flows, and this might be a bit controversial here, where what I saw was, in the 90s, everyone kind of liked music, but they were all in their kind of genres. It was very genre specific. And it was almost this element of elitism and snobbery
It was.
depending on your genre that you listen to. And then that flowed into the 2000s. But now what I'm seeing with this younger audience is they're so accepting of learning new music, or who is this person? I want to hear this person, or, oh, like I really, I like this song, or, oh, my mum listens to this song. Like, I know this song. This is actually really cool. I didn't realize it was them. There's some TikToks of a whole heap of high school students, and they're put in front of a laptop to listen to different songs that came out in the 90s. And there's one with Blink-182. And then Blink-182 is actually watching the reaction of these kids.
Yep.
And, one kid, he just knew every single song. And then another kid's like, I have no idea who this is. But the fact is that there are kids out there who are appreciating the music that came out, and they're wanting to learn more, and they've got this thirst for knowledge when it comes to music, and I absolutely love that. I love that this elitism that was around for so long is kind of being diluted, and we're actually getting kids acknowledging that they want to. There's a producer in Darwin.
Yeah.
He's like a venue manager and stuff. His name's Cyril, and he does remixes of old school songs. And he's done like one of the songs from the Karate Kid, and he's made a dance remix, just a little snippet.
Yep.
Like there's stuff that he's still trying to get cleared, and then he'll put it up on Spotify. But just the songs he's choosing are 80s and 90s classics. And you're like, dude, he did something to a Celine Dion song, and
Yep.
that's some music knowledge there. And I don't think he doesn't look like he'd be any more than 25. I'm really sorry if he is. You look really good for your age. But, that looking at that, and now he's educating his followers on all these original songs as well, like where they originally came from. And I think that is just amazing, and I'm really excited to see where that element goes.
And when you were talking about the elites, I do have a little story that I can share. I can remember when I was in high school, in particular in my media class, we had a teacher that would allow us to play music in that class. And I don't think you'd be able to get away with it these days, but hey, too bad, too sad. And a lot of my peer group, and including me, were at this particular stage, were into like heavy metal. So like the Korn were big.
Yeah.
That Limp Bizkit, Metallica, as I previously mentioned, Pantera. Yeah, that kind of.
It was that.
That was at that particular time, particular frame. That's what me and my friends were listening to. And I can always remember we had one kid who liked Tupac, Biggie, and we were like, nah, this is rubbish. Turn this rubbish off. Majority of the rules.
Or then you'd make fun of
and
the kid, like you'd call them the homie G's or something.
That's it.
That's exactly what happened in high school.
But then, after a while, I actually, it was pretty much when Eminem started to get really big. I was like, that kind of opened my ear up. And I think a lot of people, particularly Eminem, did this to a lot of people, where he was, one of the decent white rappers. Sorry, Vanilla Ice.
Yeah.
But, and he was speaking in a way that, he was using those words. He was, quite articulate. He was actually really decent.
I think
his early stuff.
I think Eminem was really, really interesting, and is such an interesting case study as well, because he really became he mainstreamed that rap basically for the more Caucasian audience. But at the same time, he did it in a way that he was controversial. He was talented in his lyricism.
He was.
And I think that all just, when Dr. Dre saw what he saw, he knew he was on a winner with him. And even now, the guy barely puts out any new music, and he's still as big as he ever was.
I can remember buying on CD the Marshall Mathers LP. That's the one with Stan, Kill You, Kim, which was a pretty controversial song as well. I can remember I used to play that album inside out almost every day. And then that was actually his second album.
Yeah.
I can remember his first album. I can remember, actually, I've got a story about buying the album, the Slim Shady LP. I went to a CD store, I won't name which one, and they actually refused to sell it to me because it actually had a warning 18 plus sticker.
Yeah.
And actually on the label it only says recommended for 18. And that's what I was like, hang on, it's recommended.
Yeah.
But anyway, long story short, the shop owner said, no, not selling it. So I went to a large department store. It still had that same sticker. Yeah, I got it anyway.
Yeah.
So that was controversial in itself. But yeah, I can remember, listening to Eminem, and that kind of got me interested in, what is rap? And then, I started, doing some digging like NWA, Mobb Deep, a lot of, his predecessors that he was influenced. I kind of listened to them as well.
Yeah.
And a bit like, when I was saying I like Nick Cave, I found out, what he liked. But and that kind of discovering, music for my taste as well, by learning about artists and what that they inspire, who inspire them, that kind of,
I think it's really interesting, and you bring up a really valid point about rap music and just how it was seen back in the day as well, and it was no different to heavy metal's gonna it's gonna turn our kids into this,
like Marilyn Manson. There was that argument, Marilyn Manson, just because you listen to him you're gonna shoot someone, and Eminem copped that too, and addressed that too.
And I think there's actually really interesting, there's a comedy, it stars Chris Rock. It came out, I think it was 94 that it came out. It was Chris Rock's first film after Saturday Night Live, if I remember correctly. It's called CB4, and it is a parody on just how the world was to rap groups like NWA and Ice-T and all that, the Ice Cube and it really parodied that, and it's a funny movie, but it just shows you exactly how they were being perceived and viewed, and how parents were getting really up in arms when it's also like, well, you guys had Ozzy Osbourne and he was biting a head off a bat. So how is that okay? But we can't listen to this, and
the Sex Pistols, of course.
Well, exactly. You can listen to it. It doesn't necessarily mean there's nothing in there that's brainwashing you to do it, right?
Yep.
It wouldn't be on there.
Exactly. Yeah. And also, I always find that it was always about offence,
Yeah.
And like to me, I mean, you can't make laws or about what's offensive to you may not be offensive to me.
But also, what's one of the number one rules? Controversy courts cash.
And controversy sells. Like Prince once said. Yeah. Now, stepping back, as a child, did you have a celebrity crush?
I've had a couple of celebrity crushes. To be honest, my first real crush didn't really come until I was about 13. So I was a late bloomer. Dean Cain.
From Superman. Yep.
Yeah. So Dean Cain, but not when he was Superman, when he was Clark Kent.
Oh.
Yeah.
What's the difference?
I just felt the glasses and the mild-mannered reporter. Maybe that's why I became a reporter.
There you go.
I wanted to go into journalism. I want to be Lois Lane. I always that has been a thing. We won't go into that. But then I also, when the Backstreet Boys came about, Nick Carter, a million trillion other girls in the world. I was going to marry him. And
what happened?
I grew up and realised that I think for me, there was still a little bit of a crush on him. But then he started going out with Paris Hilton, and I was like, not really my... nah, I don't really like you anymore. But I also, I kind of grew up and kind of... Hilariously, I'm back in Backstreet Boy era now, but I kind of grew out of that, and only if I really wanted to listen to the Backstreet Boys would I listen to it. I have actually seen them in concert 4 times, and I have met them.
Okay.
And I can from the very brief encounter I had with them, and my head probably like literally going, oh my God, like stay calm, stay calm, like be calm, be calm. I'm very lucky that I've met and I had spoken to a lot of artists and musicians prior to this moment. So I did know how to kind of remain composed, even though inside I was literally losing everything, like just melting. But they were all lovely.
Yeah,
they were
cool.
so sweet. I got a hug from him, so I actually touched him. But to be honest, nowadays I'm more an AJ girl than I would be a Nick girl. So,
wow.
so you know, it's how funny the world and taste change. But to be able to actually say I've met them and they were really cool, because they also say never meet your heroes, right?
Yeah.
So that was also something I was very worried about. But no, they were absolutely very charming, very beautiful. Brian wanted to know where my earrings came from. You know, AJ and Nick were just very complimentary. And I know they do this to all the other girls as well. So I'm not like, oh my God, it's me.
I'm exclusive.
You know, look, 17-year-old Demelza might have had a whole different story and planned out her whole life with them. But that's it. I'm off. But it was nice to actually be able to meet my crush.
Yeah.
And then, because now, like, with all the stuff that Dean Cain has said and done over the last couple of decades, it's, I think it was more the character.
Yeah, he's falling off your radar.
It was more the character that maybe I was infatuated with rather than, Yeah,
because I remember a couple of years ago, I went to a concert. It was a Nick Cave concert, and it was a I've seen him a few times. I've seen him with his band, The Bad Seeds. And I've seen him solo a couple of times, and this one was an in conversation with Nick Cave.
Right.
What it was, he would play some songs, and then you answer some questions, and you got given a card. And like, you actually had to hold up your card if you wanted to ask him a question.
Yeah.
And of course I did. Absolutely. And anyway, about halfway through the show, I'm not getting picked on it. But anyway, towards the end of it, I stood up over, and he picked me. I was able to answer my question.
You know what? I've got, if we've got some very quick time, I can divulge a funny story, well, a kind of a story. Ice Cube.
Oh, yeah.
The questions actually made me remember this. So originally I was on a list of journos to speak to Ice Cube when he was in Perth. He had just released an album, Gangster Rap Made Me Do It, and he was doing press for it. But of course he was in Disney movies as well. So a lot.
Are We There Yet? I think
yes, I think Are We There Yet had just come out or been out for a little while. I think the sequel might have been around the corner, or it had just been released. And he had done 3 interviews before. I was the 4th interview, and I get told, oh, look, he's not doing any more interviews today. And I was like, who ticked him off? Someone's happened. Someone said something for him not to want to thing. I was disappointed because I was like, this is Ice Cube, man. Like, this would be awesome.
Yeah.
And I was writing for a hip-hop magazine, an Australian hip-hop magazine. So I was like, I'm pretty sure I would have been the most legit one on that list, right?
Yep.
So I went to the concert that night, and on stage he was like, I got asked by journalists, they want to know when I'm retiring from rap music. Like, I'm not retiring. He's like, so I cancel the rest of the thing. And I'm just sitting there, and I was like, oh. And then I thought about it, and I went home after the concert, and I emailed the publicist, and I said, if I send through my questions and they get pre-approved, I'm happy to still do an interview. Or try and get the interview, because I said he can see my questions and he can see that I wasn't actually asking.
I'm legit.
There's not a single question about movies. I'm asking about, so it was around the time that President Obama was about to be elected. So I was asking questions about that. So there was political questions. I asked him, does he feel like history's repeating itself? Because at the time there were riots in LA over police brutality, very similar to 1992 in the LA riots that went on around then. So I was asking him about history repeating itself. I asked about the music element.
Yeah.
And I asked these questions, and they turned around and his management was like, you get 10 minutes. I got 15.
Hey.
He was very happy to answer the questions. He was lovely to talk to.
Yep.
So lovely, so respectful. Gave me some absolute amazing quotes to the point that there was a website, I don't know if it's still around, there was like this big international hip-hop website called allhiphop.com. And it was like a news, like it released the news headlines, and it was Ice Cube tells Australian journalist, blah, 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 like this about, why we need to elect Obama and things like that. And I was like reading it, I was like, that's me. I'm the Australian journalist.
Yep.
Like, this is awesome. So, to be able to have, questions are so important.
Exactly.
And really thinking about the questions that you want to ask, because sometimes they get asked questions that they're like, wow, that's actually a really good one. But don't do things to like annoy them.
No.
Like I know Exhibit hates it if you ask him to pimp his ride.
Yeah.
Those are the things that shut down interviews as opposed to
ones that you can find the answers to on the internet pretty much.
Yeah. Exactly. Like ask the questions that people want to know and you can't find.
Yeah.
And or remember what you're trying to achieve and get the questions, like ask the questions to get that and not bait them into saying something controversial. Like actually ask something that's a real solid question.
Has there ever you've met quite a few different celebrities. Has there ever been one that you've gone, that was a bit of a shame, or a bit disappointed, or their behaviour or anything like that?
I didn't meet them, but I did do a phone interview with them, and I just found like he just did not want to be there. I'm not going to say who the celebrity is because he is currently on tour around Australia on a festival, but I am aware that these days he has grown up and he's much nicer and much more lovely. But between the interview that I had with him and just the half-hearted answers and just for me, I found also being a female and that, and that was a different time as well. It was kind of a bit of a shock when, this girl comes on and then once I get into the questions, it's like, oh, you know your stuff. Like, you know what you're talking about. And to be honest, in a really perturbed way, I got a real kick out of that as well.
Yeah. Kind of like proving yourself.
I will prove you wrong,
proving yourself.
I can be one of the boys too. So, where that was concerned. But then I also saw, I used to do some work backstage on some concerts as well. And I was manning Neo's meet and greet. And Neo, lovely, like very respectful. His manager was awesome as well to deal with. And then this particular artist, his manager was yelling like all sorts of expletives because the towel wasn't to the temperature that he liked. And the thing was, there were underage kids lining up to meet Neo, and Neo's manager actually went and yelled at the manager and went, "Oi, there's kids down here," and there's kids and women.
Yeah.
Be respectful, and I just thought that was, that was a really lovely thing for him to do, but also, not great for that particular artist's team to also be behaving in that way. But, the one thing that I've seen some really cool things backstage. I've seen Busta Rhymes, Game, and I think it was Bow Wow. They were all playing like NFL gridiron.
Yep.
They were all playing like American football behind the stage one day, and Snoop was like sitting on the balcony and just watching, and I've come out of the lunch tent and I've just gone, I need to take a moment to like take in what I'm actually witnessing in front of me. And even there was another festival type concert where I was standing to the side, and you had Sierra and her crew, you had Jay Shaw and his crew, Flow Rider was behind me, Ja Rule had walked past me, and Akon was performing on stage, and my friend who was the publicist, she's like turned to me and she's like, can we just take a moment of where we're standing right now? And I was like, oh, I'm kind of freaking out, like, oh my God. And then I get this tap on the shoulder and it's like, hi, I'm Flo. And I was like, oh, hi, you're Flow Rider. I'm Demelza. Like, nice to meet you. And then he was like, oh, like, what are you doing here? And that was the one thing I found with artists is they'll always thank the people, like the ones that really appreciate and aren't giant muppets.
Yep.
They always will thank you for the work that you are doing backstage for them to help them.
Yep.
And I really, really like that. Nelly was another one, like, thank you so much, Fat Joe, thank you, miss, thank you so much, like very respectful.
Yep.
And I really loved that about so many of the rappers. They're really hard and, tough, but backstage they're so polite, very respectful and very appreciative of what you've done for them.
Excellent. I have one last question before we go. Now, what pop culture trend do you love the most or have loved? It can be from now or it can be in the past, so it can be either or. And what one do you think, thank goodness we got rid of that?
Oh, what pop culture? This is a really hard one. Look, I think for me...
It can be any it can be music, it can be fashion, it can be whatever.
Do you know what pop culture trend? It's not... I really loved. I think I just want it to come back more than anything else.
Works.
Cross colours.
Okay.
So in the 90s, there was these big, baggy, very brightly coloured jeans. If you look at TLC and what they were wearing in the 90s with the bright red, bright green jeans, those were cross-colour jeans that they were wearing. And I've seen some bootleg versions in H&M, but it's not the same.
Yeah.
It's not cross colours. It's not the baggy ones from the 90s. I think Salt and Pepper wear them in the shoot video as well. But I would love for cross colours to make a comeback. They're like the only fashion statement from the 90s
That'll be next
haven't
Christmas
come
present.
back. I think the one that I am happy for it to go is again, it's fashion related.
Yep.
And it's the low-rise jeans. I know they tried to make a comeback, but I'm really kind of glad they didn't come back in the way that they did back then because the 2000s, there was a few too many plumber's cracks on display in the 2000s, but we did it for fashion, right?
Yeah, exactly. All in the name of fashion. Well, Demelza, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on today.
Thank you so much, David.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
All right. Bye for now.